Yep. Okay, let's go ahead and get that battery disconnected because we're going to be glomming around up underneath the dash. I don't think there's any bare wires, but hell, all the manuals say do that first. So anyway, here's my issue. Part of the issue. Where is it at? I said here's the issue and I can't find it. Here it is. I need to mount that relay too while I'm in here messing around. This is the plug-in for the windshield wipers. In the 94 Chevy, the wiper motor was right there. On this truck, it's back up underneath the dash, way up underneath of there. That's the reason why I went ahead and I bet you can't see. I'm probably gonna have to move a whole bunch of crap out of the way just to see it. I have no idea how I'm gonna film up in there, but first things first, I'm gonna get out here. I'm gonna shut that hood back down. Shutting this light off. I'm gonna get up here and take these nuts loose and let that mechanism hang in there and crawl in there and lay on our head and see what we gotta see and see what we have to remove to be able to get it down out of there. Like I told you the other day, I hung that in there before I done anything else. And then when I run the wiring in and hooked it up, it fired, and I got all excited and forgot all about the wipers because that was in July. Well, I've got to correct that now because it's November the 12th, and it's getting cold and rainy, and I've already got a heater that I've got to run another wire to so I can have low speed also. So I'll probably have to pull that back out. Well, I have to pull it back out to run a wire, but I didn't clean the fan very well, so it vibrates. Anyway, in and out, put it together, take it apart. And after I get all of this in there, all these little features that I'm working on right now, at some point I have to blow this, or I should blow this truck completely back apart. Yeah, blow completely back apart and detail some of the welds on the mounts and clean a few things up underneath. And that at the very, very, very start of the channel, you see me piecing together firewall. Well, I've got to pull it back apart so I get in there and finish out that firewall right. Anyway, I don't know if I caught me in that or not, but we're gonna get to it. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see anything up in there. I know I can't hardly, but right there, somewhere where you at? Yeah, this is gonna be an exercise in aggravation. There's the electric motor, wiper motor. I'm probably gonna have to pull all the heater duct, this plenum, this lever that operates the cowl vent, all back down out of there before I can get to any of that. So, hey, alrighty. This is gonna be fun. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see any of this or not, but I do in fact have it loose, and I'm working it closer to out. And the only thing I've done is taken down the defroster hose to the driver's side. And you can't see him, but George is... Yeah, run off, you turkey. You've been rubbing on my head the whole time I've been trying to work. George, hey, you being a butthead? Yeah, there you go. Stand on Dad's belly. You'll make biscuits. Ow, you're not helping, kitty cat. Oh, is that gonna help? Does that help? You are one rotten cat. You happy that Lucy went back to the house? Huh? Ow. George, you're a pest. You know that? Huh? You know you're being a pest? You don't care, do you? There ain't no mouses in there. You just want lovin's. Oh my God. All right. I'm gonna have to stop and do something with this kitty cat because he's killing me. His claws are sharp. So I stopped what I'm doing to give George some attention, and he thinks it's time to sit on top of the truck and give himself a bath. Oh, now you want come back? Okay, George. God, you're a spoiled kitty. Yeah, you're pretty good old Curious George, aren't you? What's Dad doing? Huh, buddy? Like your head rubbed? Okay. You gonna let me do anything? Give me that look. Oh, you're a mess. All right. I got work to do. Okay. I got the glove compartment door open where I can kind of see in there. You can kind of see part of it through there. I can't tell, but what I'm tangled up on, I'm just wiggling and pulling and hoping for the best. Maybe you can see there, hey, there's part of it. Part of the problem is this electric motor is about 3 or 4 times bigger than the vacuum motor that was on this. So it wasn't designed for a pathway to get this big old motor down out of there to start with. Yeah, you can see what I do to successfully do this. Right, drop your camera, turn it upside down. As I was trying to say, if you can see what actually releases this thing and lets it out of there, write me a note and tell me, because I can't see. Yeah, that them's gonna have to come down out of there. I'm stuck. Tearing up my defrost hose. I'll pull that off. Push it back out of the way. Okay. You'll let it flop around that way. What was that saying I came up with the other day? Something about a one-armed pirate arm wrestling an octopus. Well, that's kind of the way I feel right now. Well, I still ain't got the big end of it down. I don't think it's going to come down through that hole, folks. All right, I'm going to shut this off and take that plenum right there loose. See if I can get myself some more room. Okay, I took the screws out of the plenum, let it hang down by the cable. Okay. Would you looky there? There that monster is. All right, let's get this out here in the daylight. Well, shop light. Take a look-see. This is what we're working with. That's the motor from the 94 Chevy. I put a little temporary bracket on there to get it bolted in. And get you ready where you can kind of see. That's the arm off of the original vacuum motor. I was working on getting the arm length and timing right on that. When I stuck it up in there, I still got to figure out a way to make that more secure, because that's just held on there with that nut. There's no splines. It's just stuck down on there and then captured with that nut, and it'll unscrew itself. So I got to go find the original arm, the splines off of this motor, and adapt it to this. Where you at? Adapt it to this arm so it can be mounted in there securely. So, and it's late. It's about supper time on Tuesday. So I'm gonna leave this, put the kitty food back in the office so the raccoons will stay out of here, and come back and start this again in the morning. Ain't that right, George? Is any raccoons out there? Huh, buddy? All right. You take care of the shop. Yeah. You gonna go hunting pretty soon? I know, you've been up on top of the shelf sleeping all day. All right, George, tell everybody good night. Say like, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right. It's all yours, buddy. Well, it's 6 o'clock on Wednesday morning. I wasn't able to sleep, so I'm over at the shop early. Got the kitties fed. Sissy's enjoying her breakfast. George is taking up some observation post. Probably be down here pestering me. But I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about this linkage. This is the original vacuum motor out of this truck, and I guess it's not as much bigger than the electric's not that much bigger. It's just shaped different. Anyway, I was over scrounging around, and all that crap that was laying on my table. Part of that crap is things that I've taken out of this. That don't go in that hole. That goes in that hole. Anyway, while I was laying there tossing and turning and sleeping this morning, or trying to sleep, I was thinking about what the length of that linkage is supposed to be and how long I'm going to have to make this arm. And I don't remember what was in those holes that held that together. There was a clip similar to that in this hole. I have to go get on the computer here in a little bit and do some research on these things. But if I remember right, when I stuck this on that motor in that hole and put it in there and tried it, the arm was a little bit long and it over-rotated these. So, of course, that's been several months ago. I'm thinking that was placed on there about like that, but I don't really remember. There's a shiny spot. Well, I don't see it now. Yeah, right there. Well, I've got to do some more research, because I don't want to put this together, get it up in there, and have it over-rotate those arms, because what happens is that'll get back like that, and that motor, electric motor, is strong enough it'll just wad up this frame. So I've got to get this timing right before I put it back in there. I was able to find the original splined arm off of the electric motor. What's probably going to happen here is I'm going to take it and cut it off with the wafer wheel, probably along that line. Cut this off somewhere in this area. And weld that to that. As soon as I figure out the right length, somewhere in this range here. So this will go away, all of this will go away. And then this will be splined onto the electric motor. It held down with this retainer nut. I'm having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. I'm watching the screen and keeping you in the screen. But anyway, that's where we're headed. Hi, George. Run, kitty, run. He's not real pleased having the light on. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to the house and let the kitties eat before I get over here and really get into this. Gotta do some research anyway. Go find my teeths. All right, I'll be back in a bit. Okay, it's a few hours later. I've had some breakfast, coffee with Mom, give Lucy some lovin's, done a lot of research, looking around, trying to find information on these old vacuum motors. After wading through what seemed like countless write-ups and pictures and so on electric conversions, which is what I'm doing, but it's not their way. I saw everything from a $70 electric motor to a nearly $1,000 set, and none of those had the features that the wire harness and the motor that come from my donor truck, a 94 Chevy, had. So we're going to continue to try to adapt that. But I was able to find one picture. It was a copyrighted picture, unfortunately, so I'm not going to show that. But one picture of a vacuum. I believe when I walked in, I was in the process of talking about finding one picture of an original vacuum motor and its linkage. And I was able to at least catch a glimpse of this arm and how it worked. And yes, there was not a clip right here. As I mentioned earlier, there was a lug like that, if you can see that or not. And you can see where I've cut that off. This is probably boring you to tears, but it might be helpful to some people. Anyway, in trying to help understand how this whole thing worked and what I've got to do going forward. Now then, I was looking at these wear patterns right here, and I could tell that there had been something in there. Well, between that drive dog and that drive dog, there was some kind of a rubber snubber in these two holes. This arm that connects to the wiper linkage actually floats or floated on this. Not in that hole, it floated on that hole. This tab was actually crimped onto here, and these little lugs here and here drove it with rubber snubbers in there to soften a little bit of that stroke. All of that probably is irrelevant. I probably just lost 2 or 3 watchers with that. Anyway, in the process of converting this, I touched on the need to get the length of this arm correct. I didn't really, well, for some it's a given. they'll intuitively know what I'm trying to drive at. Others won't get it no matter how hard I try to explain it. But this motor, the original air motor, ran in up to 180-degree sweep. This motor, the new motor, the electric motor, it spins 360 when it's operating. It does not go back and forth. So I theorize, and even on that, just a quick eye, I don't know it isn't, it's from this pivot. So that is nearly the same length from this pivot point to this pivot point. This being a 180-degree sweep, that's fine. But I've got to shorten this arm with this motor because it turns 360 degrees, and this pivot arm is going to try to follow it. Well, I can't have that. That'll run the wiper blades down through, anyway, that'll run the wiper blade down through the firewall. So I've got to shorten this sweep up a little bit. If I was super good at math and geometry, I could probably plug some formulas in, do some measuring, and get the exact measurement I need, the exact ratio I need for this arm in aspect of this arm, and be able to dial in the exact degrees I need on the windshield. And you might say, well, if you know that, then you ought to know what the formula is. Well, I don't. I just know that there is geometry, and I don't know it. So this is going to be some high-tech guesswork. Actually, I'm going to go on what I already think I know when I make this, and make it a little bit shorter. Because when I put this, centered this on this hole on the shaft and ran it, luckily when it did overswing, it just backed the bolt off, or the screw, or the nut off, and allowed this to spin and didn't really wad that up. Like I said, that's a long-winded explanation of telling you that I already knew what I don't know. So anyway, that's probably 5 minutes of gobbledygook that nobody need to hear, but that's what's going on around in my little squirrel brain. I'm gonna shut you off and do the slicer and dicer and cut that off, because I know that's got to happen. And then we'll probably put this back together, and I'm probably going to cut this out a little bit, move that hole up, and see if I can get the exact length I need. I'll get back with you in a minute. Well, I thought I was all ready to do a test. I'd shorten that arm up, or move that hole over rather, an 1/8 of an inch. Put it back underneath that nut. Hook the battery back up. I was gonna have you watch while I went in there and turned it on. As soon as I turned the key on, it popped the fuse. So it looks like we're going backwards a long ways. I got a short to chase down. I ain't looking forward to this. All right, here we go. Somewhere between that fuse box and that motor, we've got a short to find. Yay. Well, this ought to be interesting. Lucy and George are both in here. George is at my feet, and Lucy's sitting beside me, and they've never been in the same place and got along without a chase race, so we'll see how this goes. Anyway, after doing some serious consideration, I remembered that the only thing that's been disturbed since the last time I run that windshield wiper motor was I cut down that steering column. So I tore back into it, and much to my dismay or relief, I found that when I put the column back together, these three wires coming from the turn signal and wiper motor got pinched, and one's a little bare. So let's see if it pops a fuse when I turn it on now. And this is by guess and by golly, that's the ignition actuator rod. I believe it's off. Okay, that should be on. Fuse did not pop. That's a good thing. We'll turn that on. We'll run around here and do a little test light checking. Stay, Lucy. And see if I got power at the wires. Let me turn you around. Okay, let's see if I can figure out how to get that to focus for starters. Hold on to that. I need 3 hands. All right. Hey, we got power there. We got power there. We have success, folks. We have success. So now I can go back. Now I can go back to testing my wiper motor. Adaptation, arm length test that I was working on earlier. And then I got that steering column to put back together without pinching those wires. And that was a hell of a contest. I was really hoping not to have to repeat, but that's how the ball bounces in this game. But hey, at least that short was easy to find. If you've ever tinkered with automotive electronics, you can chase a short for 7 forevers, and I found it in the first 3 inches of wires. So good, because there's a lot of wires up underneath that dash, and I really wasn't digging the idea of going through there systematically and chasing them all down. All righty, let's see if I can get this thing semi put back together and get this test we was working on set up and run again. Set up on earlier anyway. If I can get that all done, I'll set you up and have you watch and make sure that arm works while I turn it on. All righty then. Well, folks, it looks like Lucy's enjoyed about all this she could take for one evening. And after attempting this a little bit, I've come to the probably wisdom conclusion that all of those little parts and pieces need to go back in that on the bench. So probably the next time you see me tomorrow, hopefully that didn't shut off. My battery light just came on. Anyway, as I was saying, I think we're going to call it an evening. Turn the shop back over to George. Lucy and I are going to head to the house and see if we can have some supper. And tomorrow morning, bright and early, well, I may do it without you. Drop this steering column back down out of there. Take it over on the bench and see if we can wrestle this all back together. And actually get the steering wheel on there straight. And my turn signal limiter or shut-off deal wasn't working when I put it together last time, so I'll see if I can figure that out while we're messing with it. And since I have the steering column out of there, it'll make it easier to get the windshield wiper motor bracket and all that stuff back up in there. And while we're doing that, might as well go backwards again, pull the gauge cluster down out of there. I want to see if I can adapt the original bezel from the Ford dash to that gauge cluster and tidy that up a little bit. Anyway, it's been a long, somewhat frustrating day, but hey, we made progress. Part of it was going backwards, yes, but we made progress. So. Anyway, until tomorrow. Yeah, that's a wrestling contest. Oh, mercy. So we can get all these pieces over to the bench and maybe get this thing all put back together. And back in there. Good grief. Yeah, I'll be right back. Well, the modifications I made to this camera base the other day was a big help, but that flat washer still limited me too much to being able to make some of these shots. This swivel on this thing only goes about 75 degrees. Yeah, can't do this with one hand. Anyway, I found this old chunk of thin channel and punched a hole in it and screwed it down on top of there. And that's going to allow me to get horizontal shots with some adjustment. And if I need to shoot down on something, I can tilt that magnet over this way. Whoa, look out now. And still be able to function, kind of. Still is not as good as my swivel neck that I ran off and left. Had her home away from home, but maybe I can continue on. All righty, let's get back to this steering column. Yes, I have had this steering column apart, but that was several months ago. I didn't know what I was doing then, and I don't know that I really remember everything that I should have learned that time either. Put a couple tick marks on here and hope that yeah, I had me lined up. It was at that time a hell of a contest. I did get it back together. I took 6 inches out of it, right here. But as you can tell from what we saw yesterday, I made at least one crucial mistake in pinching some wires. So we're going to try not to repeat that this time. And see if we can figure out what was going on with the, figure out what was going on with the turn signal, what do you call that? I think it turns off your turn signal. So I guess we gotta take the damn thing all the way back apart before we can put it back together. And I got lucky and got together the first time because this thing, yeah. I don't know if I even want to show this video or not because it may be long and drawn out. How in the... Well, yeah. A whole bunch of crap like that. Jigsaw puzzle. You know what? I'm gonna turn my tunes back on. And if you wanna know about putting steering columns back together, I strongly suggest you watch a video. It's got somebody who knows what in the world they're doing, because this is a lot of by guessing, by golly, and you'll probably never see this because I'm gonna turn my tunes on and put this back together. Well, it's the middle of the day, Friday, and I promised you we'd work on windshield wipers this week. And then I took a detour, a backtrack, finishing up window seals. Well, those are in, the door seals are in, the window seals, the side windows are in. And I've done a little tinkering on the wing windows. And we did get a good start on the windshield wipers until we found a short, had to backtrack, a short in this steering column. I left it on the magic table last night, and it's pretty much back together today, except for I noticed just now that the elves left out something. Where's it at? The sleeve that goes over the hazard light button. They missed it, so I gotta take that off, put that back on. And while we had this apart, I'm gonna get you propped up here where we can see. When I modified this thing and shortened it, got it all back together, everything worked except for the little device that shuts off that cancels the turn signals. Well, it took a lot of searching, but somewhere or another I missed and then lost these two little tiny springs that go down in here. So luckily they're available. Napa's right down the road. They overnighted, ordered them, and so see if I can figure out how to get them in there, and we can get back and put this thing together and put this part of this project to rest. Let's see if I can pinch my fingers. Oh, this is not going to be. Anyway, after I turned you off last night, this old steering column went back together fairly easy, providing I haven't missed something again. This must be a hold your mouth right in 47 different ways, and I haven't figured it out yet. Anyway, this old video is getting pretty long, and I've gone backwards as much as I've gone forwards this week. Don't go down in that hole. Do not go down in that. Thank you. And I'm fixing to go even further backwards, because while we have the steering column out, I already mentioned doing something with the gauge cluster. I'm gonna lay this down and talk to you. So I will probably be pulling the gauge cluster out, working on that. See if I can get the original Ford bezel and cover lens on it. And like anything, once you change one thing, you change a whole bunch of stuff. And since we're in here anyway, I got the dash torn apart and the steering column out. I might as well drop the brake pedal, do some slicing and dicing on it, and see if I can get it reclocked, and the throttle pedal, because they're both right underneath my butt. So yes, we will get back to the windshield wipers, but it'll probably go together after I get through going backwards a ways, is I guess what I'm getting to. Anyway, it's been a typical around, back and forth and down the rabbit hole week. I'm already at probably an hour long worth of material here. So I'm going to try to get this all sorted and glued together and start working on content for next week. This, like I said, this is Friday, so hopefully sometime between now and the first of the week, hopefully for the first of the week for people that watch YouTube while they're working, hopefully I'll have this up and be well on my way to content for next week. Anyway, if you made it this far with me and I can actually get this all glued together and up, thank you for sticking around. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, ring that notification bell, all those things. Have a quality day and a blessed weekend. All righty now. Thank you.